I've always been a very outgoing person and love talking to people, love meeting new people. I think that's why I do what I do, because I get little snippets and looks into other people's lives and what they do for a living, and I learn a lot along the way.
You're listening to the Drone Radio Show podcast, the show about drones and the people who use them for business, fun, and research. Hosted by Randy Goers.
Hello, everyone. This is Randy Goers, and welcome to the Drone Radio Show podcast, episode 156. How important is relationship building in creating a successful drone-based business? If you ask today's guest, she would say it's critical. Nicole Abbott is a Tampa-based photographer, videographer, artist, and drone operator. She is a graduate of the University of South Florida, where she earned a Bachelor of Fine Arts with a concentration in photography. She honed her skills as an artist and photographer before starting her own commercial photography business. A few years ago, Nicole picked up a drone and launched a new career as a drone videographer. After getting her Part 107 certification, she quickly established herself as a leading aerial videographer in the Tampa Bay area, eventually landing high-profile jobs and becoming the first woman to fly for the National Hockey League. She credits her success to hard work, refining her skills, and nurturing strong relationships that have garnered her high-profile jobs, referrals, and repeat business. In this episode of the Drone Radio Show, Nicole talks about her path from artist-photographer to drone videographer. She talks about how building strong relationships has landed her some great opportunities and what she's done to build a successful commercial drone-based business. But before we hear from Nicole, I want to thank those of you who continue to support my funding campaign on Patreon. For as little as $1 per month, you can help defray the cost of production and keep the podcast going and growing. Go to patreon.com/drone radio show to join the team. Now let's learn how relationship building can lead to a successful drone-based videography business with Nicole Abbott. Let's pick up the interview where I asked Nicole to introduce herself.
Hey, Randy. Thanks for having me on your show. I really appreciate it. I love listening to your podcast. It's one of my favorite things to do every week. My name is Nicole Abbott. I have run a photography business for coming on 6 years now. And about 4 years ago, I integrated drones into the mix because if I had a superpower, it would be able to fly. This is my way to be able to combine my love of photography and my love of flying.
So what was it like when you flew the drone for the first time?
Oh, it's amazing. It's all I want to do. And every thing that I look at, I just want to see it from above.
How much has it taken over your photography business?
It's at least 50%, if not more.
For context, in January of 2018, Nicole was contracted by the National Hockey League to the Tampa Bay Lightning to take drone video of the 2018 All-Star Game in Tampa, Florida. This successful engagement led to a second job with the NHL in March to acquire footage of an outdoor NHL hockey game in Annapolis, Maryland. As we listen to Nicole talk about these and other key engagements, notice that they have one thing in common. They all came about through relationships that she forged well before the engagements came about. It's a great example of building a business through honest, face-to-face interaction, and it's a skill that all drone videographers should strive to master. You recently returned from Annapolis, where you flew for the National Hockey League. Tell us about that.
Oh, yeah, that was a lot of fun. A little crazy, but a lot of fun. I was working for the NHL, the National Hockey League. They were holding an outdoor game at the Navy Marine Stadium, and I flew the drone to document different views during the game.
How did you get that job?
NHL contacted me through the Lightning, the Tampa Bay Lightning, who I've also done work for. And I first worked for them at the beginning of the year in January at the All-Star Game that was held in Tampa, Florida. So did some shooting for the NHL then. They loved me so much that they called me back.
We'll come back to the Annapolis job in a minute. But tell us about the All-Star Game. How did that one come about?
When the NHL contacted me, they contacted me through the Tampa Bay Lightning. And it was through an influx of emails and voicemails at the time, right? And that all came in at once and saying, are you in town? Are you available? The NHL's looking for a drone flyer. We need you. So one, that was a big compliment. Two, I only had 2 weeks to make it happen and wasn't sure how I was going to make it happen for multiple reasons. One, you can't fly over people. Two, it's an event that's happening at an arena in which, there are regulations against that as well. So, it was just working with the NHL, working with the FAA, coming up with a plan. It was about 2.5 days of me going, I can make this work. How am I going to make this work? And then I woke up Sunday morning and said, that's it. That's how I'm going to make it work. We're not going to fly over people, and here's how we're going to do it. And came up with this plan that I then presented to the NHL saying, this is how we make it work. And they said, go for it. If you can make it happen, let's make it happen.
So what were you dealing with?
It's illegal to fly over people, and only 4 people have been granted a waiver to do so. So we came up with an idea to not fly over people and to have areas that were sectioned off, either over a parking garage, over the water, things like that, so that we weren't operating 100% safely. Also was working with an insurance company out of New York to obtain insurance because you can't have drones flying while there's an event happening. So it was a lot of work beforehand, ahead of time, to make it happen and to get everything approved.
How much time did you have to prepare for each event?
The first one at the All-Star game, we had 2 weeks maybe, and I still don't even know how I pulled it off, but we made it happen, and they were surprised that I did, and had a little bit more time for the outdoor game in Annapolis, Maryland, which was about 3 or 4 weeks. And again, made that happen. And
working with the FAA, what was that like?
They're great, actually. They're very responsive. There are times when it's been difficult because they require this 90-day lead time, which is just absolutely ridiculous. And I've had to turn down a lot of jobs because of it. Throughout the years, I've made a couple of contacts, as well as reached out to some of the folks in Annapolis, one of them being the person who oversees the entire Annapolis area. And, we made it happen. We worked it out.
So what was it like for you shooting for the National Hockey League?
I was on cloud nine. One, I was shooting for the NHL. I'm a huge hockey fan, so it was a little bit of a dream come true. And I remember looking at my assistant at one point and saying, I'm flying for the NHL right now. So it was surreal. It was amazing. And then on top of that, every time I would go drop off footage to the video department or the photo department, and throughout the entire weekend, everybody just kept complimenting me over and over and saying how great the footage was and how much they loved it. And I remember thinking, I've never had so many compliments in my entire life, and also wasn't flying to full capabilities because we were limited on where we were flying. So, it was fantastic. They're a great group of people to work with, and I can't wait to work with them again. Playoffs are here, so there's some things in the works.
What else did you have to contend with in addition to creating the safe fly zones?
That weekend was the dreariest weekend, and the sun didn't come out. Monday, as soon as the event was over, the sun finally came out. But on Sunday, we were also dealing with the possible chance of rain. So luckily, the game started at 3 p.m., and I remember coming back into the arena to get ready to then take ground photos of the game. And as soon as I walked into the arena, it just started pouring and raining so hard. So a little bit of weather, but proved to be okay. And
then several weeks later, you're in Maryland shooting the outdoor game.
Yeah, before the NHL folks left Tampa, I was already being asked to work for them again, directly by the VP of the NHL, which was quite flattering, speaking about the All-Star game next year and mentioning Annapolis, seeing if we could make that work. And
now on to Annapolis. What did you have to do to get ready for that job?
One of the first things is just getting stadium approval. In Tampa, the stadium contacted me saying that the NHL wanted somebody. And here, it was a little bit different to where we had to get stadium approval, which they were all for it. And then checklist is then, can we fly there? What waivers do we need to submit? It happened to be in Class G airspace, which is very rare for any of the jobs that I've been on, because a lot of them are in urban areas. Once we told them our plan again of, we'll map out a few different spots, which they worked with us on to, make sure we weren't flying over people. And
How did you plan for the flight?
So we just used the same strategy that we applied in Tampa. The stadium was all for it. They were very open to it. And we just went down the same checklist that we had in Amelie about airspace and approvals and stadium approval, insurance. And the folks I work with at the insurance company already knew that everything went smoothly the first time around during an event. So there wasn't even any explanation there. And they were really open to it as well.
And you brought your drone with you?
I did. And then I hired an assistant that was in Maryland that has a drone company up there to be my visual observer.
Logistically, everything was taken care of, but you still had one challenge ahead of you.
So the biggest thing I had to deal with before leaving to Annapolis was the weather. There was a nor'easter coming in, and there was also a chance of rain. And so at one point, it looked like I wasn't even going to be able to go, or that I wasn't going to be able to fly. So it was this back and forth and stressfulness of constantly watching the weather, even though here in Florida, we know that it can change within an hour. That was the hardest part. I remember waking up at 5 a.m. on Friday to fly out and looking at the weather one last time before I made the decision to go or not to go, and looked at it saying, all right, this is going to work. It's going to happen. The weather's going to be better on Saturday. There was only 15, 20 mile an hour winds, which is about max winds that you want to even dare to fly in. And got on the plane, direct flight. A few hours later, land only to have an email that's saying emergency evacuation from the stadium at noon. So by the time I got the rental car and got to the stadium, about 5 minutes later, we were evacuated from the stadium because of the winds. So the weather had drastically changed in the 4 or 5 hours of getting to the airport, getting there early, taking the flight and everything.
So at this point in time, how were you feeling?
So watching the weather unfold was quite stressful because the winds, even driving from the airport, the car that I was driving was being pushed around on the interstate and on the roads. So it was probably one of the most stressful situations because it's also not like the event can change or, there's other drone shoots that have had to be postponed because of weather, but there's no postponing a game that's going to happen.
Was there a moment when you seriously felt the shoot would be canceled?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Even the morning of, I thought I was not going to be able to fly the drone. There was one point, though, after eating breakfast that I looked outside and the trees weren't blowing as crazy as they were. And I took a walk outside and thought, oh, it's a miracle. The winds have just gone away. So I loaded up my stuff and went in a few hours before they wanted me there, only to get there for, a 5-minute drive down the road and it to be super windy. But about 2 hours before the game started, the winds totally calmed down and it was magical and we made it happen.
Wow. So amazingly, the weather cleared and you went to work. What type of shots were you trying for?
Overall stadium shots, crowd shots. Got the shots of the fireworks after the flyover, which was really cool to see.
How long did it take to get what you needed?
Not that long. It wasn't about a matter of time. It was about documenting what was happening during the game. So we did some pregame stuff. There was a pregame area where we were on the outskirts of the pregame area and documenting the crowds of the pregame. Then it was, closer shots. There were some sunset shots, firework shots, crowd shots. The lights actually went out in the third period, and everybody started holding up their cell phones. So there's a drone shot of that that's posted on there, which was pretty funny.
How did you get the night waiver for the shots of the fireworks?
So the assistant that I hired in Annapolis, Nathaniel, who was amazing. Hey, Nathaniel, great to work with. His company has a night waiver, and I piggybacked off of their night waiver.
After all of the organization, all of the weather, everything that you went through, how did you feel when it actually came time to fly the drone?
It was a rush. From going to thinking, oh, I'm not going to be able to do it, to doing it. It's one of those things where you just start doing it, you go into go mode, and then the next thing you know, it's all over. But yeah, it was thrilling. It was great. This still, pinch me, I'm shooting for the NHL right now. So it was also that day, it was my aunt's birthday, as well as what would have been my grandmother's birthday, and she lived in Annapolis. So it was pretty serendipitous, and it was nice for those reasons as well.
Now, were you just asked to shoot the video and deliver the raw footage, or did you do any post-production work?
So during the All-Star game in Tampa, I did the editing on the photos and then would drop off the video because they wanted lifetime video and have a team of editors. They have a great team of editors. And for the Annapolis game, it was similar. And then what I would do is go to the production trailer, the video people, and then next door to the photo ops and just drop off the footage and then go back out.
We're talking rather casually about shooting for the National Hockey League, but in reality, this is a pretty big deal. Not everyone is asked to shoot for a major sports team. What advice would you give to others hoping to get a similar opportunity?
So I have taken ground photos. My background, again, as I said earlier, is in photography. So I've taken ground photos for Tampa Bay Lightning, hockey games, NHL, and just worked my way up towards putting myself in that position. And so the advice that I would give is just, if there's a dream and there's something that you want to do, just work towards that goal. Some other advice would be that it's not just about the work, and it's not just about the photography, the videography. It's about forging relationships with your clients, with people, with friends, and, putting your work out there. And
relationship building is a common theme when I speak to other successful drone videographers. And it played a part in another high-profile shot that you were involved with, this time at an airport.
That was also this year in January. The Fort Myers Airport is building a new air traffic control tower. This project was about a year in the making, from the initial phone call to, about 6 months later when, after they spoke to the air traffic control tower manager and everybody was on board, then they gave me the go-ahead. The longest part was waiting for the waiver to come back, which took about 5 months to get approved. During that time, the company kept calling me and, do you have an update? And unfortunately, at the time, there was no system in place that you could check on the waivers. So that made it very difficult for me to not be able to say, oh, okay, yeah, it's pending review and it's gone to this person or it's gone to the next step here. So now the FAA has started rolling out a new program, which is great. It has not rolled out everywhere, including the Southeast, which is where I mainly work. So hopefully that will happen soon.
What were you asked to do for this job?
A company contacted me, huge construction company that's nationwide, and I believe even worldwide, contacted me because they're building a new air traffic control tower at the Fort Myers Airport. And they wanted views of what it was going to look like from the cab level. So we wanted to fly up to 220 feet, I believe it was, and then do a 360-degree pan video and then do some photos of that.
On the surface, it's a pretty simple shot, but what makes it significant?
It definitely falls into the category of being one of the easiest drone shoots I've ever done. What made it complicated was we're getting all the approvals. What made it special was that I believe I'm the first woman to fly at an airport. There's a company consisting of a group of guys out of Atlanta who flew a few months before I did. And with all the research I've done to find out, I can't find anybody else. So yeah, I think I'm the first, not only the first woman NHL drone flyer, but the first female to fly at an airport in the U.S. as well.
Well, if there is a female drone operator that has flown a drone at an active airport before January of 2018, and she's listening to this podcast, we'll probably hear about it.
I know, and if there was, then let me know.
So were planes landing and taking off while you were doing your shoot?
They were flying. So the new air traffic control tower is closer to where the runways are going to be. So all the flights were active, flights were coming in. There's a shot that I have actually where the drone's up and there's a plane landing, and a couple photos and some videos of me there. I hired an assistant who I also asked to take some photos, and there was a group of excited people there that also provided some photos and video. And
any special procedures that you had to follow?
We had to maintain contact with the air traffic control tower during our entire operation, which also meant that we could hear what was going on. So as the planes would come in, they would notify the planes that there was a drone, and there was excitement also that was happening on that end as well.
How did you get this job?
I was referred by another company in the area.
Turning to the business side of things, How has your business grown in the past few years, especially with so many new operators entering the space?
It's absolutely growing. Every year it has grown more and more. And there are times after Christmas where there's a little bit of a lull because I feel like people get drones for Christmas and they're going, oh, I think I can do this as a career, which is great. You know, I'm all about everybody doing something that they love and that they're passionate about.
What do you typically share with a prospective client in the initial conversation?
When a customer contacts me, in some cases, they've seen my website and that's how they've found me. In other instances, they've gotten my name from a friend or word of mouth. So I go through this process of educating them as well as showing them my work. And through the education process, I make sure to tell them that whether they're going to hire me or they're going to hire somebody else, to make sure that the person's licensed, to make sure that they're insured, to make sure that they're following all of the FAA rules. It's a tricky thing with looking at all those maps and the airspace, and it can get a little confusing at times. There's a lot of variables such as those to look at before your operation. Have
you ever turned down a job?
Yeah, there's some clients that call and instantly bark and say, I'm going to go with the lowest price, and which I say, well, probably not going to be the lowest price, only because I've compared or been told that I wasn't before. Again, it's an education process about, hey, these are the things that you need to look at, and it's not just about the lowest price, in which I have convinced people, or they've seen my side of it going, you're absolutely right, and I shouldn't be going with the lowest price. So I've gained clients in that respect.
Has anyone tried to undercut you for a job? And I don't mean a competitively lower price. I'm referring to someone that is offering a price that just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It happened pretty recently where somebody was way undercutting the price to the point where, it's probably not conducive for them to be running a business. And undercutting is always going to happen. So what I always say, and what my advice would be, is not to compromise quality and or value. You have to maintain your reputation. You also have to accurately value what you deliver. Don't compromise. On top of that, it's not just about the job, it's about forging relationships. So the photography or videography part is only half of the equation. In a prior lifetime, having worked in customer service, I think customer service is huge. Editing is huge. Delivering the product on time is huge. Being nice is huge. Our society has gotten far away from that in some aspects. And speaking of niceness, one of my favorite quotes is from John Templeton. And he says, it's nice to be important, but more important to be nice. And I have that hanging on my fridge as a little reminder to myself.
Of all the traits you mentioned, which is your strongest?
I would say forging the relationships. I've always been a very outgoing person and love talking to people, love meeting new people. I think that's why I do what I do, because I get little snippets and looks into other people's lives and what they do for a living. And I learn a lot along the way.
And your relationship building goes back even to your traditional photography days. Give us an example.
One of the most rewarding experiences from the photography business was working for the mayor of the city of Tampa. So that started with me working freelance for a local paper, which I still do some work for them from time to time. So I've been, doing that, working with them 8 or 9 years now. And that led to me being at events with the mayor and then the mayor directly hiring me.
What advice would you give to others who want to be a successful drone videographer?
I had a little bit of an advantage with my background being in photography. So I would suggest, whether you're a photographer or you're not, to start by educating yourself on photography in general. If you already know photography, great. Again, you're one step ahead of everybody else. And, to just practice. My first flight with the drone, one of the first things I did is what's now referred to as a droney, and still kind of a signature move that I do, even with clients. I love the aspect of revealing where you are. One of my favorites was just for fun, and it was in Canada at the world's tallest teepee. But yeah, so I definitely had the advantage of having a background in photography, just had to learn how to fly the drone. It came pretty easy to me. People have asked me, was it a hard thing? Is it a hard thing? My response sometimes is I'm not necessarily the right person to ask. I don't know if it's me playing Nintendo when I was younger. But it's something that also, as soon as I got it, I went out and practiced. I went to a field and I made boxes and squares and rectangles and flew up and down and just got familiar with the movements of it. It's about practice. When I'm on a job, yes, I'm working, but again, it's more experience. It's more practice.
As a woman, have you ever felt slighted or marginalized while working in a primarily male-oriented industry?
I was really excited saying I was the first woman to fly it for the NHL, and somebody said that shouldn't even be a factor. But again, even though the NHL is definitely a male-dominated industry, I didn't feel intimidated whatsoever. Everybody was, welcomed me with open arms. The head of the photo department is run by women, which is also great. Girl power.
Do you have any advice for young women that want to be a successful drone videographer?
Follow your dreams. Just if you're passionate about something, no matter what it is, just go for it. It's a lot of hard work and late nights and early mornings, but if it's something you want to do, go for it. Don't be intimidated if you're in a male-dominated industry, like most industries are. And I'm always open for people to contact me and ask me questions.
I know you cover hockey, so how many games do you attend?
There are about 41 home games a year. And if I'm not working the game, I'm probably there as a fan. So I'd say almost all of them, unless I'm traveling for work. And if there's a hockey game there, I like going to the different arenas. My goal one day is to be able to go to all of the hockey arenas.
What do you like most about hockey?
It's a very demanding sport. It takes a lot, right? On and off the ice, and it's fast. You're thinking fast, and you have to be strong to do it. So all qualities of which are relatable.
When you're not shooting hockey games or taking in the view at an airport, what other type of work are you doing?
I'm doing some other sports things as well. I just got back from the Reno Tahoe area and did a little sketch with the Reno Aces. I've also been approached by ESPN. And when I'm not doing anything sports related, it ranges from everything from construction. For instance, all this past week I was on site with Toyota. They're building a new dealership. And it goes all the way up to having short clips and documentaries.
What do you consider your proudest moment so far?
Oh, wow, that's a tough one. They've all been so much fun. The airport shoot, as well as the first NHL shoot, happened in the same week. So what I thought, because we had worked so hard to get the approvals and make it happen, what I thought would be the biggest shoot of my life flying at the airport, then 2 days later changed to my biggest shoot flying for the NHL. That's a really tough question. And then it's great to have snippets of clips and documentaries as well. So that's a tough one. I don't know if I could pick one favorite, but I definitely have a bunch of favorites like the NHL and the airport, as well as commercials and documentaries.
Has viewing the world through a drone changed the way you see things from the ground?
So now, even when I'm on the ground, I just want to see what it looks like from above. I'm absolutely obsessed with either the bird's eye view, the oblique view. I love top-down shots where the drone's up high and you're looking straight down. The drones have offered this different vantage point, and I love seeing the world from that way. And I think that's part of the reason why I integrate drones more and more and more into my work.
What's it like to make a living at this?
Oh, that is just, it's surreal. Sometimes I can't believe that I'm being paid to fly drones. I get asked that question all the time when I'm on location of, you get paid to do this? Yeah, I mean, it's wonderful. It's a hard feeling. It's hard to put in words, like it just puts a big smile on my face and gives me goosebumps. And it's not just about taking the pictures or creating the videos. It's about running the business also, which, sometimes you don't want to do that part of it, but it comes with the job. And I'm constantly restructuring how I do things to save time. I think that time is very important. Time is very precious. So anything on the back end I can get done faster is great. It's similar to every 6 months to a year with new drone technology coming out, right? Like it's always going to get better and better.
That's it for episode 156 of the Drone Radio Show. I hope you enjoyed hearing from Nicole Abbott and learning how relationship building can lead to a successful drone-based business. I want to thank Nicole for taking the time to speak with me. If you want to learn more about Nicole's work or want to connect with her, check out her webpage at from whereifly.com. If you like the Drone Radio Show, please consider supporting the podcast with a small donation. The content is always free, but for as little as $1 per month, you can help defray the costs of production. To donate, go to patreon.com/Drone Radio Show. And thanks for listening. Your support means a lot to me, and I hope you'll listen to more episodes of the Drone Radio Show podcast to hear how others are using drones for business, fun, and research. For the Drone Radio Show, I'm Randy Goers.
This has been the Drone Radio Show podcast. More information on today's show can be found on our website at www.droneradioshow.com. If you're using drone technology for business, fun, or research and would like to share your experience on the show, please visit our website and fill out a guest appearance application. And don't forget to follow us on your favorite social media channels.